So when it comes to weight, women often will say to me that they experience, or they experience, but they suspect that their weight issues or their brain fog issues are related to hormone imbalances. And the truth is, they are most of the time right. Most of the time, there are these imbalances. When I work with someone, my job is to dig deeper get to the root causes of what is contributing to these hormone imbalances, and how do we help that person get those hormones back into better orchestration to make those wanted improvements in someone's life. So one of the things when we talk about weight, obviously everybody thinks about thyroid, and certainly that's a place to start, right? People are familiar that the thyroid gland, which sits at the base of the throat, right, which produces these hormones T4 and T3, regulates metabolism. And so certainly signs of a sluggish or slow thyroid, right, could be weight gain, could be fatigue issues, could be slow bowel movements, constipation, could also be contributing to brain fog. So thyroid, because it impacts energy at a cellular level, has a global impact, and that's certainly a place to begin. But a high percentage of people, their thyroid numbers look really pretty good on lab testing. So what I wanted to go back to today is something else that I happen to see. I would say I see this problem in about 40% of the patients when I test their what we call the gut microbiome through a stool analysis. And so what we're going to talk a little bit about today is estrogen metabolism. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen for a sec here. And if I can simply get rid of that. And I want to go to, okay, so if you can see this, hopefully you can see this clearly. It is so fascinating because in the world of research science and research, even genetics, there is what is known now as the microbiome project. This is literally where scientists, researchers are studying what our gut environment and all of the organisms, the bacteria and the viruses and the yeast and fungi that inhabit that, the role that they play influencing our health, from influencing our genetic expressions, turning on genes and turning off genes, to regulating and metabolizing our hormones, to turning on and turning off the neurochemicals that affect our moods, the production of vitamins. So this ecosystem of organisms has way more control over who we are, our health and our well-being than we ever really understood. And we're just kind of tapping into that. And it's so interesting that they're actually not even coming out with new language, right? And so it brings me to this this language. I thought it was just easy to kind of show it to you on the screen. This is part of a test. And so there is something now known as the estrobolome. I'll say that again, estrobolome, right? So the bolome refers to the gut environment, right? And so estrobolome is referring to the gut's environment on your estrogen metabolism, right? So I think it's just kind of easier to just read this to you and then go into more of an explanation, right? So the estrobolome is a network of over 60 genres of bacteria, okay, it recycles inactivated estrogens for reabsorption back into circulation by providing very powerful enzymes. This recycling process is handled by gut bacteria with an enzyme called beta glucuronidase activity. Right? Now, we did talk about this a little bit 2 episodes ago, but again, I'm going to show you some stuff. Right? So this enzyme, it's a fancy word, right, called beta glucuronidase. Right? Anything that ends in ASE is an enzyme. And enzymes are catalysts. Enzymes are the catalysts that make things happen, right? In order to turn one hormone to another hormone, the enzyme does that. In order to convert this amino acid into this neurotransmitter, enzymes make things happen. So enzymes is what makes all of biochemistry move along, right? And we're beginning to understand is that the bacteria in our guts can influence a lot of these enzymes. And so this enzyme, which is called beta glucuronidase, right? What it does is it has an impact on estrogen metabolism in men and women, right? And what it does is it takes what we would call a inactive or non-active form of estrogen, and this enzyme breaks it down and converts it back into an active form of estrogen, okay? And shuttles it back from the gut back into circulation. So it increases the pool of circulating estrogen. That could be good or bad, right? So when the estrobolome is too abundant, the body is unable to efficiently eliminate estrogen, right? It's causing estrogens to build up and ultimately leading to estrogen dominance. That's not a good thing, right? So, so these enzymes are acting on estrogen, right? So an increase in the activity of this enzyme is going to increase the reabsorption of estrogens into the body instead of clearing them, putting a person, man or woman, into estrogen dominance. Okay, so that has consequences, right? So it can certainly cause serious consequences where if we're not breaking down those estrogens properly through our liver pathways, those estrogens have the potential to influence estrogen types of cancers, such as breast cancer. So now you have a connection plausibly between your gut environment, the health status of the ecosystem of your gut microbiome, influencing the potential of a person expressing breast cancer. Okay. But regarding weight, right, is if a person is in estrogen dominance, what do hormones do? So estrogens or hormones impact your genes. That's what hormones do. So when they get inside of your cell, they bind onto your genes and they give instructions. So they allow that gene to express or influence what that hormone is all about. So in this case, if I'm making this clear, right, if we have an increased pool of estrogen and we're estrogen dominant, we're going to have more estrogen impacting our genes. And we're going to tend to express phenotypically more signs of estrogen dominance. Now, what I mean by phenotypically, right, is your genes are your genes, but what your genes express is your phenotypic expression, right? So if a woman has more estrogen influencing their genes, phenotypically her body shape is going to be more estrogen phenotypically, and that means that person will be more carry more weight around the abdomen and in the hip area. Their breasts tend to be fuller. So my example is this, right? Is if you have two people, I'm going to use women in this example. If we have two women, and one woman has a higher pool of estrogen, and the other woman has a lower pool and has a higher pool of testosterone. Okay, phenotypically, they are going to be expressed differently, right? So these two people can be doing the exact same diet, right? The same calorie count, eating the same exact foods. They can be going to the gym and working out, doing the exact same exercise routines. So their lifestyle is exactly the same. But phenotypically, because of the influence of those hormones, their body shape and style is going to be completely different. So the woman who is going to be estrogen dominance is never going to get that so-called muscular striation that the other woman who has less estrogen is going to express. Okay. So I hope that gives some light there. So the estrogen, or called the estrobolome, right, is referring to how the bacteria of our gut environment interplays with our hormones. So going back to the weight issues, right? So um, when people are having difficulty losing weight, no matter what they try, and they're working out harder and they're eating less and they can't seem to do things, right? Well, you got the investigation goes elsewhere, right? Ruling out any issues with thyroid, but certainly it stands to reason that the digestive environment, your gut microbiome, just for language, we want to make sure we understand. When we talk about the gut microbiome, we're talking about the organisms that inhabit that. All right, so let me go to this other diagram and bring this one over. So this is a another stool test from a different laboratory, right? And what you see down here is the measurement in the, I'll make it a little bit smaller. What you see down here is in what is called the gut microbiome metabolites, right? Is the measurement of beta glucuronidase. Meaning, so metabolites means that the bacteria are working and breaking down things and producing things. So the glucuronidase, in this case, it shows it to be normal, but if the test results came back and it was elevated up here, right, that means that there is a higher concentration of bacteria. There's an imbalance. There's a higher concentration of bacteria, and their responsibility is increasing more beta glucuronidase. So the measurement of it goes higher. And if we see higher beta glucuronidase, then we have to be pretty suspect that that person's estrogen pool is going to be going back into circulation, and that person is going to be estrogen dominant. So that may be expressed phenotypically, as a weight issue. And so in order to help that person lose the weight, we need to help that person get the microbiome under control by getting the beta glucuronidase down, right? And also helping that person to clear the excess estrogen from their body through like liver detoxification pathways.